Release That Witch. Episode 18. The Envoy, Part 2. In a scorn or no, the banquet still had to be eaten. The mood over the main course stayed cordial. The fourth prince said nothing of awe, and Petrov could not very well raise it himself. But when the prince ordered the maids to bring the after-dinner sweets, Petrov ventured a probe.
Your Highness, by long-standing custom, today should be the day the ore is handed over. Yet I saw no ore at all in the dockyard.
Roland set down his little wooden sticks and nodded.
Most unfortunate. The North Slope mine suffered a cave-in some time ago. For a month, my people have been trying to restore production, but the rubble at the collapse is still not cleared. At this pace, the mine will not reopen until next year.
A cave-in? What a coincidence! No, he has no need to lie to me. One trip to the North Slope would expose it. A lie that obvious would only slap his own face. Then, the output of the 2 months before.
Not much. And by custom, such a little stone cannot feed my people.
Roland stressed the word custom heavily.
Mr. Ambassador, you remember the months of demons? 2 years past?
Of course, Petrov remembered. 4 months of bitter cold had starved nearly a fifth of border townspeople to death, and the cause was the municipal officer Fereno's insatiable greed. Even among the nobles there had been voices of protest. Some had demanded Fereno be punished afterward. But the matter had fizzled out, all because he was the husband of the Duke's second daughter. Hearing the prince raise it now, Petrov felt a sense of foreboding.
This time it is worse. If we deliver by the old way, I fear it buys us only 2 months of wheat. My people will not survive the winter, sir. The old way of trade must be abolished.
Petrov opened his mouth, but found no rebuttal. He was no professional diplomat. Faced with such thorough reasoning, he could find no fault, so he tried to stall.
Your Highness, I regret this deeply. Such a tragedy will never happen again. I swear it. I will have the 6 houses jointly lend you 1 month of grain. Your people can repay it slowly, once production resumes next year.
If I sell to Willowtown, there is no question of slow repayment at all.
But
There are no buts. They are willing to buy stone with gold royals and to sell wheat, cheese, bread, honey at market price. Anything gold royals can buy, they will sell. And stepping back, Mr. Ambassador, even if you are willing to lend a month of grain, will the other 5 houses agree to your decision? Duke Ryan, as I hear it, is not a man who reaches agreements easily.
he's right. Entirely right. Not only the other 5 houses. I cannot even be sure of persuading my own father to keep the monopoly. The terms must change, yet I have no power to strike the final blow. Ambassador, I am a speaking trumpet, nothing more. Perhaps the Duke wants no one reaching any private agreement with Border Town at all, whether with the old lord or the fourth prince. Hence, a different envoy every season, and never anyone who holds power in the family. Still, whatever comes of it, I have to try.
At that thought, Petrov laid his last card on the table.
30%. The stronghold will buy ore and raw gemstones at 30% below market price. That, I believe, beats whatever Willowtown is offering, Your Highness.
Higher, indeed. But the same old problem. Will your word become the unanimous decision of 6 houses?
I set out for Longsong Stronghold tomorrow. Once agreement is reached, I will return bearing the new contract.
But my people cannot wait that long. You know how it is between nobles. Reaching unanimity usually takes a great deal of time.
Your Highness, cooperating with the Stronghold is the better choice, for you and for your people. Willowtown is too far, though it too can shelter you from the months of demons. The road there is prone to danger. Gods above, what am I doing? My heart is pounding. Am I actually threatening a prince?
Unexpectedly, Roland did not fly into a rage. He burst out laughing.
Mr. Ambassador, you seem to have mistaken something. I never meant to go to Willowtown.
Then you mean?
And I do not mean to go to Longsong Stronghold either. I'm not going anywhere.
Petrov momentarily doubted his own ears. Fortunately, the prince did not let the eerie silence stretch. He went on.
This winter, I stay in Border Town. Border Town will become the Kingdom of Grey Castle's new frontier line. Do not look so surprised, my friend. This is no nonsense. In a little while, I can take you to see the newly built wall, right at the foot of the North Slope.
A wall?
Yes, a stone wall joining the North Slope to the Redwater River, 12 feet high and 4 feet wide. With it, we can crush the demonic beasts right here in Border Town.
My brain cannot keep up. Last season's ambassador said nothing of any wall. No. Back then, Border Town's lord was one of the stronghold's own. He would never have spent scarce hands on such a thing. So, the fourth prince began building the moment he arrived? Even so, that is 3 months. What could 3 months possibly build? Wait, what did he say? 12 feet high, 4 feet wide, joining the North Slope and the Redwater? A wall that size takes years. To begin with, he does not have the masons to cut the stone. This is not Grey Castle. The people here are only fit for brute labor.
Before he could digest the news, Roland's next words stunned him again.
As for ore sales, from next year, I am willing to lower the price by half. But not all of it to Longsong Stronghold, since you may not need that much ore. I suspect you will prefer finished metal goods to low-margin raw ore. Shovels, spades, that sort of thing. As for the raw gemstones, they will be sold by auction to the merchant who bids highest. I would love to sell them cut and polished for a better price, but regrettably, Border Town does not yet have that capacity.
Oh, and you have the capacity to build a city wall in a few months? And what does he mean? We may not need that much ore. 1,000 gold royals of output a year. And even if output doubles, 2,000 gold royals is too much for the stronghold to swallow. The sheer arrogance.
He forced down his indignation and held on to his last shreds of courtesy.
I will remember all of this, Your Highness. When I return, I will confer with the 6 houses at once, only the wall you spoke of. I would like to see it.
Of course. But no need to hurry. It is not too late to set out after you've enjoyed these capital-style pastries. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Ambassador?
Release That Witch. Episode 19. The Lesson. The first rain of winter finally fell, and it fell for 2 days straight. Roland leaned against his desk, watching the misty town beyond the window. The wind rolled the rain up in gusts that slapped against the glass, raising ripple after ripple. Through their refraction, the town's outline warped, houses and streets bent out of their usual order. For want of drainage, the jagged flagstone roads ran with standing water, like so many shimmering brooks. The distant mountains and forests hid behind curtains of mist, like some enchanted realm.
Scenery like this would make a tourist hotspot in the modern world. What I would rather see is a jungle of steel and cement. The rain has halted the wall, which dulls even the joy of having talked the Stronghold's envoy into retreat 2 days ago.
You just said the air around us is made of many kinds of gas. Is that true?
The clear voice broke Roland's train of thought. Anna blinked her beautiful blue eyes as she asked.
Ahem. Miss Anna, one addresses His Highness with honorifics.
No need for such ceremony. She's my student now.
Taking advantage of the rainy day, he had summoned the 2 witches and Carter to hear him teach. Yes, he had decided to open a class in general natural science. Carl the stonemason's school had inspired him. If even a mason could found a school, how much more a proper engineering dog like himself? Why does discrimination exist? Because of ignorance. Universal education is, in any era, the most effective engine of civilization. He had meant to invite the minister's assistant as well, but Barov was buried in government work of late and politely declined. For some reason, since winter began, Barov had grown remarkably driven, almost single-handedly shouldering Border Town's daily administration. At the prospect of new knowledge, Anna lit up at once. her eyes all but glowing. Nanawa was delighted not to be healing experimental animals. Carter wore a look that said, "Nothing better to do anyway, so I may as well indulge your nonsense." But soon after the lesson began, the knight's eyes glazed over. Nanawa looked equally lost, staring blankly at the words nature and science. Anna alone, though half comprehending, struggled hard to memorize everything she heard. Roland had to pause and let the three of them digest for a moment.
To your question, yes, truly. Even though they all look the same,
Your Highness, I do not understand. If they all look alike, how do you know they are different gases?
I can prove it to you.
Words alone would only tangle most people's heads in theories that sounded like sorcery. Better to kindle their interest with a simple experiment. He had prepared ahead: a candle, a glass cup, a wooden basin, and a bowl of clear lime water. The glass cup was a pale brown, far from the transparent beakers of later ages, but it would serve. This simple experiment needed no observation of process. Roland had already run it once in private. The result proved that, although this world held magic, its other laws of nature remained identical to Earth's. He had Anna light the candle and stand it in the wooden basin.
Burning consumes a gas bound up with all living things. If we stop breathing, we end like this candle. Watch closely.
He capped the glass over the candle. The flame swayed twice and soon went out.
It used up the air, Your Highness. Nothing strange about that. Without air, we die, like falling in water.
Nanawa nodded along vigorously.
So you think the cup now holds nothing at all?
As he asked, he poured the lime water into the basin. The waterline quickly swallowed the cup's mouth, settling at halfway up its body. This experiment was such a classic that most elementary teachers loved it as an opener for science. Roland still remembered the awe of watching his own teacher demonstrate it at the lectern, the moment that set him on the path of engineering, never to return. He gently lifted one corner of the cup. Several bubbles instantly drilled out of the cup's mouth and broke the surface. Then the clear lime water turned faintly cloudy, wisps of white suspension spreading slowly from the rim.
If the cup held nothing, we would see neither bubbles nor the waters change. So the air contains at least two different gases. In fact, the candle's burning consumed only one part of the air. The other part cannot take part in burning at all. It is just as colorless and tasteless, yet its nature is the exact opposite.
That does seem to follow. But what is the use of knowing this?
The knight thought for a long while before grasping the relation.
If we could obtain the first gas, we could make flames burn longer. And if we obtained the second, we could put flames out quickly.
A genius. An absolute genius. One small error in it, yes, but to leap from the gases' differing natures straight to separating and using them, that chain of thought is genius. She has had no systematic modern education at all. Reaching this so fast proves her logic is beyond ordinary people, certainly far beyond my chief knight. Well said. Ever since humanity learned to use fire, we parted ways with the animals, and it began with an accident. Perhaps lightning set a tree alight, perhaps a spark struck from stone. But had no one noticed, had no one tried to use it, we would still be beasts. I show you this experiment to tell you, curiosity and thought are the engines of human progress. Nature holds many more hidden powers, waiting only for us to discover and harness.
At the end of this speech, Carter still looked half convinced. Nanawa belonged to the type who is awed without understanding, staring straight at Roland. Only Anna lowered her head, as if thinking something over. "All right," Roland sighed inside. Ideas too far ahead bring not awe but bewilderment. Only when the real thing sits before them will they know how miraculous nature's hidden powers truly are. Just then, the kettle hanging above the fireplace began to rattle, steam hammering at the lid.
Ah, the water is boiling.
The knight went over, lifted the kettle out with a fork, and the noise subsided. Wrapping the handle in a rag, he filled everyone's cup. Roland wrapped his hand around his own cup, feeling the warmth through its wall. From the first day fire was harnessed, the principle had been complete. Boiling water, Countless people had watched it, done it, and never imagined that those soft rising wisps of vapor could hold astonishing energy.
That prime mover would not be mastered for centuries. Yet once mastered, it changed human history in a blink. Simple in principle, but barred by the limits of craft. So it is not most transmigrators' first choice. I am different though. This world has witches. Using magic to fight and kill is a barbarian's idea. Using magic to create, to replace the key crafts that strangle civilization, that is the right way to use it.
They chatted until the sun went down, and after dining with the others, Roland returned to his bedchamber. This age had no nightlife to speak of. Unless one was making babies, everyone slept early. He had even considered using a prince's privilege to invite a maid for some exercise. But in the end, his thin skin kept the words unsaid. He had just lit the room's candle when he heard several slow claps behind him. Then, a voice spoke.
What a remarkable lesson. I had no idea the fourth prince was such a learned man.
A strange woman's voice. Cold sweat broke out all over Roland at once. A stranger appearing in his room without a sound. What could she be but an assassin? He bolted for the door. Before his hand could even touch the handle, a cold wind sliced past his ear. When he came back to himself, a silver-hilted dagger stood, quivering deep in the door plank, its blade a finger's width from his cheek. Release that witch. Episode 20. Nightingale.
Please do not do anything rash, Your Highness. I mean you no harm. I only came to talk.
For heaven's sake, is this how one asks for a conversation?
Roland swallowed hard and turned around slowly. With a dagger's point for persuasion, he could only do as she said. In the dim candlelight he saw her, seated on the edge of his bed, wrapped head to toe in a robe, her face hidden beneath a hood. The candlelight threw her shadow onto the wall behind her, filling half of it.
Who are you?
I have no name. My sisters call me Nightingale. First of all, allow me to thank you, Prince Roland Wimbledon.
She rose, lifted the hem of her robe, and bent her knees in a perfect curtsy, a noble's salute. Thank me? Roland noticed the pattern on her robe, glinting strangely in the firelight. 3 triangles side by side, like an eye. He had seen it somewhere before. Barov's words flashed through his mind. The design upon it is the seal of the Holy Mountain and the Devil's Eye, the emblem of the Witch Cooperation Association.
You are a witch?
He he. Your Highness is indeed a man of broad learning.
Hearing her admit it, Roland relaxed quietly, so long as she was not an assassin sent by his brothers or sisters.
You came to this remote town for the witch from the North Slope mine? I do not know where you heard the news, but you are far too late. If I had meant to hang her, she would be long dead.
I know. And had you truly done so, I would want more than a talk. The association dislikes meddling in worldly affairs, especially those touching royal power. But I have never been good at obeying them. Killing a prince over one witch might be excessive, yet leaving a deep impression upon you would have been well within my power.
Naked threat. Strangely, it set Roland at ease.
She is alive and well.
I know. Besides her, there is a little girl named Nanawa. I arrived a week ago. I simply had not shown myself. I have seen everything you have done. I do not quite understand why you lack the malice ordinary people hold toward witches. But regardless, on behalf of the Witch Cooperation Association, I thank you.
A week ago. And you saw everything? Fine. You said you wanted to talk. Surely not only to give thanks?
Is it not tiring, standing to speak with me? Come sit over here. I am not so ugly as to frighten your highness.
She drew back her hood as she spoke. Not ugly was a gross understatement. She was beautiful. The moment the hood fell, a cascade of golden curls spilled down like a waterfall, slowly blooming into spots of gold in the candlelight. Her nose was high-bridged, her eyes bright and spirited. Unlike the childish faces of Anna and Nanawa, her features carried a mature allure. Even in the dim light, the sculpted play of shadow across her face was proof enough of her beauty. Roland walked slowly over and sat beside her on the bed. Not because her face had charmed the danger out of his head, he simply sensed no malice in her.
Now you can speak.
As I thought. You are not afraid of me. You are different from everyone I have met. They hate us because they fear us. I can see the fear in their eyes, but in yours.
She could not help reaching out and brushing her fingers softly across Roland's cheek.
There is only curiosity.
Roland coughed awkwardly and turned his head away. Hey, let's not change genres this fast. A second ago, this was an Assassin's Creed. How did it suddenly become a domineering CEO romance? Thankfully, she quickly reined in her emotions.
I came to tell you this. I am taking Anna and Nanawa with me.
No.
The refusal burst out before Roland could think. Startled and worried that such a blunt rejection might anger her, he hastened to add,
They are doing well here. No one can harm them. And where would you even take them? Nowhere is safer than here.
To the association. That is where they belong. Its members are all their own kind. No discrimination, no persecution. They would never have to disguise themselves again.
And where is this association? You have no fixed home at all. A month ago, my guards found your camp in the misty forest. The tracks showed you moving north. And what lies north? Endless mountains. Nothing more.
You are correct. The association now lies somewhere in the impassable mountains. For witches, it is perfectly safe.
Wintering in the mountains like savages. What part of that is safe? Clean water, enough food, warm shelter. And the months of demons are nearly here. The whole northwest becomes a danger zone. What are you people even?
Roland stopped mid-sentence. Wait, what had Barov said? Only by reaching the holy mountain can a witch find true peace. The association exists to gather the witches and search for the holy mountain together. Damn it all. Could it be?
You mean to search for the holy mountain? Inside the impassable mountains?
Forgive me. I cannot answer that.
She smiled bitterly, but her expression told Roland he had guessed right.
Then I will never agree to it. In 2 months, the whole outer realm belongs to the demonic beasts. The mountains may hide you from men, but not from them. I have a better idea. The holy mountain can be searched for at any time. Why not all come winter in Border Town instead, and go looking when winter is over?
Move the association here. You really are an interesting man. Your Highness, even if you do not fear witches, your people do. And once we are exposed to public view, the church's claws will come sniffing soon enough.
If, with the witch's help, we survive the months of demons, my people will see they are not evil. But before I could even open my mouth, she stopped me.
Besides, there is one more reason I must take them. Anna is about to come of age.
Come of age?
Yes. Coming of age is the first great trial every witch must cross. The younger one becomes a witch. The harder that trial is to survive. Your Highness, do you know why we are seen as the devil's incarnations?
Release That Witch. Episode 21. As You Wish. When Nightingale finished, silence returned to the room, broken only by the occasional crackle of the burning candle. Roland's face was grave. At last, he had a rough understanding of the witches as a people. Most witch awakenings occurred during the months of demons, the days when the gates of hell were said to open. Coming of age was a witch's dividing line. A woman who had not awakened by 18 almost certainly never would. But those who awakened before 18 would, on each anniversary of their awakening, suffer the demon's devouring. It was pain beyond ordinary imagination. Nightingale's voice trembled as she spoke of it. From her own experience, as if something were trying to burst out of the body. Every vein and sinew swelled with unbearable pain. At the end, blood seeped through the skin, and the eyes bulged from their sockets.
If you endure it, 4 or 5 days of rest, and the body slowly recovers. Those who cannot die in the torment, and the manner of their death is hideous.
Nightingale had watched several companions pass away. Their bodies lost all support, swelling into bloated spheres. Blood mingled with viscera burst from every opening of the body, turning to black mist on meeting the air. When all that could erupt had erupted, only a scorched layer of skin remained upon the ground. This was the proof that witches were the devil's incarnations. Any ordinary person who witnessed such a sight was scared out of their wits. Who would care about the true cause of death? Add the church's fanning of the flames, its preaching that this was the fate awaiting devil worshippers, and in time, witches became the very spokesman of evil. Whatever outsiders believed, the torment was real, and witches' short lives came of it. The further along, the harder to endure. Many chose to end their own lives. The demons devouring at 18, at true adulthood, was the cruelest trial of all. A witch's magic was incomplete before it. Only after coming of age did that power stabilize. Stabilized magic rose far above its former level, and could even branch into new abilities. But the stabilizing was agony, the devouring force beyond what any ordinary body could bear. Many witches died on the very day they came of age. Roland was silent for a long time after hearing it all. At last he asked quietly,
The old books record that at the Holy Mountain, witches gain eternal peace and never suffer the devouring again. Is it true?
No one knows. The Holy Mountain has only ever appeared in legend, but bringing them to the Association's camp raises their odds of surviving. When a witch need not hide, when she can live freely, the devouring weakens greatly.
Roland's mind was in turmoil. His plans could not do without Anna and Nanawa's help, but to make them bear such enormous risk for the sake of his plans, his heart could not abide it. In the end, he said, weakly,
Anna is just downstairs. I will call her up. If she is willing, you may take her away. As for Nanawa, I cannot see her until tomorrow.
Thank you for your understanding. I was not wrong about you.
Nightingale rose and curtsied. At this hour, Anna was still awake. When Roland went for her, she was bent over the table, copying something out. Seeing Roland, she looked somewhat surprised. Hearing she was wanted in the prince's room, she asked no questions and followed him upstairs obediently. Entering the room to find another person in it gave the girl a real fright. Roland took her hand and made brief introductions, and the three sat down around the round table. Nightingale repeated everything she had said before.
At the camp, there are many more like you. They are all your own kind.
That is the situation, Miss Anna. Though you signed a contract of employment with me, when your life may be at stake, I must respect your wishes. If you agree...
I am not going.
What did you...
I said, I am not going. I am staying here. Anna, I am not deceiving you. I can feel the magic churning inside you. It is nearly ripe. The months of demons, 2 months from now, will be your day of coming of age. Every day earlier at camp is another measure of safety.
Anna paid her no heed. She turned her head toward Roland instead.
Your Highness, do you remember asking me whether I wanted to go back, like Nanawa, to teach at Carl's school and study with the other children?
Roland nodded.
I did not answer then. And what you said afterward, about living like ordinary people, I do not care about any of that. I only want to stay by your Highness's side. That is all.
Her voice was steady and natural. Roland had thought he understood Anna's heart. Only now did he realize he had never understood it at all. In her eyes, he could read no emotion at all. Not dependence, not adoration, nothing, only bottomless calm. He remembered the first time they met, the same open, unguarded gaze. The difference was that her face now brimmed with life, like a bud about to bloom. She still did not fear death, but she no longer awaited it.
The demon's devouring will not kill me. I will defeat it.
Word by word, Nightingale closed her eyes and drew a deep breath.
Very well. I understand.
Then you will leave alone?
No, I think I will stay here as well. The camp will not be moving on before the months of demons end, in any case.
Why?
Roland was flabbergasted. Did she mean to keep watch on him all winter?
A fledgling who has never lived through coming of age cannot know its dangers. I have struggled at death's edge more than once and watched my companions vanish. When her day comes, I can at least be of some help. And if she does not make it, I have experience in laying the dead to rest.
She walked to the door, pulled her dagger free of the wood, and curtsied to Roland once more.
Then, farewell for now.
With that, her form faded gradually into the darkness, leaving not a trace, like mist. So that was Nightingale's power. Roland pondered it, a silent art of vanishing, a born assassin. And judging by that dagger throw, she had surely been trained. Did the Witch Cooperation Association, besides sheltering its own, also build up its strength? Or had she mastered these skills before ever joining them? There was far too little intelligence on this organization. His memory held nothing useful. But he had a premonition. So long as he kept walking the road of the witches, he would meet this organization again.
It is late. Off to bed with you.
He patted the girl's head. To his surprise, Anna brushed his hand aside and walked out of the room without a word. She closed the door behind her. The light was shut away. Shadows enveloped her. She leaned softly against the door plank, and her lake-calm eyes were calm no longer. She tilted her head up, pressed her arm across her face, and at last whispered, almost too faint to hear,
You fool.
Release That Witch. Episode 22. The Declaration. The day after the rain stopped, Border Town bustled again. Crowds of townsfolk gathered in the square, buzzing with talk, as they waited for the fourth prince's address. For this speech, Roland had posted a notice the day before. Anyone who came to the square to listen would receive a bowl of wheat porridge and half a loaf of bread. To the townsfolk, that was a free lunch, so the turnout far exceeded even the crowd at the hanging. Near noon, Roland mounted the raised platform. Facing the sea of dark heads below, he would be lying to say he was not nervous. In his old life, he had mostly dealt with computer monitors. Even at meetings, he only had to applaud from the audience. A grand occasion requiring his personal performance was a first. But he had to do it. To keep everyone in Border Town, a general mobilization was essential. Roland waved for quiet. He had rehearsed this scene alone many times, yet on the platform his mouth still went dry.
Good midday, my people. I am Roland Wimbledon, fourth prince of the kingdom of Grey Castle. I have gathered you at this hour because there is important news you must hear. The envoy of Longsong Stronghold arrived 4 days ago to collect the ore. As you all know, 1 month ago we suffered a tragic accident. The North Slope mine caved in. To this day, the mine has not fully resumed production. This disaster left us with only 2 months of ore output last season. I explained the situation to the envoy and asked that food be allotted to Border Town in full, the missing ore to be made up when winter ends. He refused! There was no room to negotiate. He refused to release more grain, just as they did 2 years ago.
Gasps ran through the crowd. Clearly, everyone remembered the famine of 2 years past.
And this time it is plainly worse. Grey Castle's astrologers tell me this winter will be longer than any before. The months of demons may well last beyond 4 months. That means every one of you may face 2 months without food. 2 years ago, you lost a fifth of your neighbors. Some lost brothers, some lost children. This time, how many more are you prepared to lose?
No, Your Highness, save us. Please, help us.
Planting a few shills in the crowd was the right call after all.
Roland raised a hand, pressing down the cries.
Of course, I will not abandon my people. Not one of them. You may not know this. The wheat and bread the stronghold sends us each year is worth nothing near the ore they carry away. At honest market prices, 2 months of our ore buys half a year of food. I have sold our ore to the merchants of Willowtown. Their grain ships will reach Border Town soon. And not only bread, cheese, mead, dried meat. Enough for the whole winter. Everyone will eat their fill.
The square erupted in cheers.
But this means a break with Longsong Stronghold. They will shelter no one this year. So this winter, we will spend in Border Town. Most of you have seen it. To our west, a solid wall is rising. I know some fear we cannot hold when the demonic beasts come. I tell you this, they are little stronger than the fierce beasts of the forest. However thick their hides, they cannot climb walls and they cannot bite through stone. Thick skin only makes them pitiable targets. So tell me, my people, will you cower in the stronghold's hovels and starve like cowards? Or will you follow me, protect your kin and children, and defend Border Town to the last? I give you my promise. All who fight upon the wall and hold fast until the months of demons end will receive 25 silver wolves, and the family of anyone who falls shall receive 5 gold royals in compensation.
We will fight for your highness. To the last. To the last.
Guided by the planted men, the crowd roared their oath. Seeing the fervor peak, Roland timely ordered the lunches handed out. He did not expect everyone to stay. If even half were willing, he was confident of stopping the demonic beast's eastward march right here. Petrov, naturally, had no idea how the fourth prince had portrayed him. When he carried the news back to the 6 noble houses of the stronghold, the response was a roar of laughter.
You say that naive prince means to shake us off and go it alone? Rushing to build a wall right before winter? Should I praise his courage or laugh at his overreach? Everyone knows the first prince is matchless in valor. Since when does the fourth prince have such nerve? Ignorance, that is all. Exactly. He has no masons at all, piling undressed stone and daubing the gaps with wet mud. Stack it high, and it will topple by itself. Whatever the case, this is good news. If he flees back to Longsong Stronghold, he is ours to toy with. If he dies in Border Town, then this farce ends all the sooner.
The Duke, who had been sitting with eyes closed in thought, suddenly spoke.
Petrov, what is your view?
Petrov froze for a moment. He had not expected Duke Ryan to ask his opinion.
My original thought was to preserve the monopoly. At 30% under market, it remains a worthwhile trade for us. But
His mind raced, ordering his thoughts.
His Highness does not intend the stronghold to keep exclusive rights. He is willing to sell ore at half price, which means he plans to greatly increase output next year. If production merely doubles, we may earn more than ever before. He also means to produce and sell ironware himself. Iron goods sell anywhere and resell easily. But none of that is the main point.
Oh? Then what is the main point?
If he can hold Border Town, that is splendid news for the stronghold as well. We will no longer spend our strength every year against the demonic beasts, saving an enormous expense. Second, the broad land between the stronghold and Border Town would become ours. Whether to cultivate or to settle, it would greatly relieve the stronghold's overcrowding, and the fourth prince will not stay in Border Town forever. The contest lasts 5 years. In 5 years, we would receive a far more prosperous Border Town, and absorbing it then would make Longsong's stronghold the 3rd largest domain in the kingdom. So, my counsel is
He glanced at the Duke and continued carefully.
that the stronghold send men to help His Highness build a wall and join in defending Border Town.
Well argued. But all of it is a merchant's thinking. You see, only profit and loss.
At that, the Duke straightened in his seat. His eyes swept slowly across the others present, and his voice turned cold and grim.
I did not reach my present station by measuring everything in profit. Why should I deal with a man beyond my control? Some rules must be kept. Break them, and punishment follows. Whether Bordertown flourishes or rots matters not. What matters is that it is my ground. No one reaches a hand into it, not even a prince.
Release That Witch, Episode 23, The Source of Power.
Come, try joining these two iron plates together.
Anna extended a finger and pressed it to the seam between the plates. Flame jetted from her fingertips and the joint melted before their eyes.
Reduce the heat. Same again on the back.
She nodded and did as told. The two plates joined at a right angle were welded firmly together. Roland examined the joint closely. It was exactly as he had imagined, a flawless, perfect weld. With a little polishing to smooth away the flow marks of molten iron, the two plates were nearly indistinguishable from a single forged piece.
Excellent, Miss Anna. Simply superb. Next, we join on the other two plates.
What is this? An iron bucket?
No, it is a cylinder.
A sulina?
Yes, it can be filled with air. See the little hole in that square plate? Air enters the cylinder through it and pushes the piston. The piston is an iron plate slightly smaller than the cylinder's bore. It can move freely inside.
Even Anna's head spun at so many invented words.
And these cylinders and pistons, what are they for?
To build a machine that moves by itself.
The steam engine, the prime mover of humanity's first industrial revolution, which freed both human and animal muscle once and for all. Its schematic was etched in every mechanical engineer's bones. Simply put, an enlarged kettle. Boiled steam is led into the cylinder, pushing piston and connecting rods, turning heat into motion. The principle was extremely simple, but simple did not mean easy to build. The hard parts were the seal between cylinder and piston, and making the steam pipes. Before metalworking was sufficiently advanced, hand forging a qualified cylinder was a pipe dream. But Anna's ability made up the shortfall in craft perfectly. Roland only had to design 4 identical iron plates, have the smithy cast and grind them, fix their shape with angle braces, and let Anna weld them. The result? A square cylinder of tremendous rigidity. With a witch's help, he skipped the traditional route of first building a cannon-boring lathe to machine a round cylinder. The other large parts were the same, made small, then joined. In this way, even a little smithy could jointly produce every part a steam engine needed. After all, before welding was invented, small pieces could only be joined by bolts or rivets, and the inside of a cylinder had to be perfectly smooth. Conventional joints could never manage that. The one headache was the steam pipe. The method itself was nothing special. Heat a long iron plate red hot, lay it in a grooved mold, and hammer it into shape, blow by blow. The same way musket barrels were forged, except those also needed truing and rifling afterward. The trouble was that Roland could hardly bring the smith into his back garden. The witches could not yet be exposed, and blacksmithing was hardly his own strong suit. In the end, he had no choice but to have the chief knight do the hammering, while he directed from the side. 3 days of tinkering later, Roland had assembled the first steam engine in his backyard.
This is the thing you said has boundless strength?
Carter frowned at the strange machine. First of all, he was certain it had nothing to do with any cult ritual. Every lump of iron on it had been fitted by his own hands. It looked like a sealed furnace, and if the devil were drawn to something like this, that would make no sense at all. But how would a pile of iron move? It looked clumsy. It had no legs, unless it could fly? But in Roland's eyes, the crude-looking machine radiated the beauty of industry. Standing on the shoulders of giants, he had skipped the whole new-come-to-what path of refinement. His very first prototype was already a high-pressure steam engine with twin connecting rods and a sliding valve. It was barely harder to build than the most primitive engine. The key lay in a few innovations of thought.
You will see in a moment.
Roland poured a bucket of water into the boiler and had Anna light the firewood. A dozen minutes later, the water boiled, gurgling and rolling. Soon a crackling came from within the cylinder. Roland knew it was the sound of the metal body expanding with heat. The piston's plate was thinner and expanded more, until it pressed firmly against the cylinder walls.
Isn't this just boiling water? So it really is a furnace.
And then, as steam filled the cylinder, the sight that set Roland's heart pounding appeared. The piston began to drive the connecting rod outward. At the top of its stroke, the second rod pulled the sliding valve, and steam pushed the piston back in. The two rods flew back and forth, spinning the great wheel faster and faster, until as the fire grew, it reached full speed. The machine roared with an ear-piercing thunder, its exhaust huffing white vapor, a force that nothing could stand against.
So, this is what you meant? The power hidden in nature?
The chief knight's face was pure disbelief. That final great iron wheel had taken all his strength to install, and now it spun like a feather. Standing beside it, he could feel the wind of its motion against his face. That could only mean one thing. This lump of iron was astonishingly, monstrously strong.
Your Highness says it can replace men and horses. If that is true, then when it pulls a war chariot instead of horses, by sheer brute force alone, 10 knights could not stand against it. It takes 15 years to train a qualified knight. It takes 3 days to build such a furnace. A week, counting the smithy's work. It needs no feeding. It fears no cold, no hunger, no arrows, no blades. Put a ram on its front, and it could charge across any battlefield. Then do traditional knights still need to exist?
That evening, when Roland returned to his bedchamber, he found Nightingale waiting once again. This time, she wore no hood. She sat at his table with a smile, toying with a few sheets of parchment.
It seems the rumours outside truly cannot be trusted. They all say the fourth prince is an unlearned lout of foul character. In truth, you rival the court masters. These drawings are the design of that iron furnace, are they not? You call it a steam engine, yes?
For heaven's sake, can a man keep no privacy? Comes and goes as she pleases. Does she think this is her house? They are design drawings, yes. But without Anna's help, they are nothing but paper.
What can it do?
A great deal. Hauling ore, draining mines, smelting iron, forging. Anywhere great strength is needed, it can serve.
Then I will take these. The association has people who command flame as well.
Hey,
She waved a hand, stopping Roland's protest.
Of course, I do not take your things for nothing. Look at this first.
She set a small white bundle on the table. Roland went over and pinched it up between his fingers. A tiny roll of paper. He unrolled it gently and scanned it.
A secret letter for carrier pigeon. The addressee is your chief maid, Tyre. Tisk, tisk. It seems your little harem is not so peaceful.
I have never touched her.
Roland frowned. Tyre. In memory, the woman had followed him from early days. The old fourth prince had been quite taken with her, though several attempts at seduction had all failed. Coming to Border Town, he had simply promoted her to chief maid, attending him personally. Her room was right next door, and she was, of all things, a spy planted by his royal siblings. The letter bore no signature, but from its contents, it almost certainly came from one of his dear brothers or sisters. It said the last failure had greatly displeased the master. Next time, act while Longsong's stronghold is in chaos. Failure will not be permitted again.
Well, actually you already succeeded. That is how I came to be Roland Wimbledon. This letter cannot be Nightingale's forgery. Only someone inside the plot would know the first assassination plan so clearly. And if Nightingale wanted me dead, she would not need such trouble. You stole it from her?
Your chief maid is not so careless. She meant to burn it after reading. Unfortunately for her, while she was reading it, I happened to be standing right behind her. I simply swapped it. So, what will you do? Shall I help you deal with it?
Roland understood perfectly well what deal with it meant. He hesitated a moment, then nodded in the end.
I will trouble you then. I truly have no confidence in doing this myself. If you can, ask her who is behind her.
As you wish, your highness. Then these drawings shall be my payment.
Nightingale smiled and bent in a curtsy. Release That Witch, Episode 24, Development Plans. When Roland woke that morning, it was not Tyr who attended him, but an older maid. And when he stepped out of the bedroom, Carter, his chief knight, was waiting outside the door.
Your Highness, I have unfortunate news. Your chief maid died last night.
What? His eyelid twitched. He had known this would be the outcome, yet his heart still felt uneasy. After all, this person had died because of him.
She fell from the balcony of her room. There were no signs of a struggle, and the guards saw no outsider come or go. So, it appears she lost her footing. An accident.
As the knight reported his findings, the look in his eyes was rather strange. Roland knew exactly what he was thinking. Back in Grey Castle, the Fourth Prince's repeated attempts to force himself on Tyr had been common knowledge.
A pity, truly. Leave her funeral arrangements to the older maid who attended me this morning. She will be the new chief maid.
Carter nodded, saluted, and took his leave. The moment Roland stepped into his office, he saw Nightingale sitting on the mahogany table.
Did you get anything out of her?
Nothing. The moment she saw me, she killed herself. It was so fast, not a moment's hesitation.
And you couldn't stop her?
I had her tied up. Who would have guessed she hid poison inside her tooth? I had no choice but to stage it as an accidental fall.
I thought you were a professional. And you still expect to be paid?
Hey now, don't say that. Just because she didn't talk doesn't mean I gained nothing. Here, found it in her room.
She laid a folded paper before him. Roland unfolded it. It was a family letter. The writer called Tyr her sister, and the contents were ordinary small talk. But she mentioned the sea again and again, the beautiful coast, how she loved to sit on the beach and watch the sunset. At the end, she asked when her sister could come home. She missed her so much.
Clearwater Port. My third sister Garcia?
Most likely. Neither of your brothers can see the sea from their lands. My guess is that Garcia Wimbledon holds the sister as a hostage, a hidden piece on her board. Judging by how readily Tyr killed herself, she was no casually placed pawn. Before she was planted at your side, she must have had 2, maybe 3 years of training.
Roland sighed softly. The battle for the throne would not end so easily. Even if he did not fight, it did not mean he could stay out of it. For the crown, his siblings had no scruples at all. Things like this would only happen again.
Ah, someone's coming. I'll take my leave, Your Highness.
Nightingale blew a teasing breath at Roland, and in the blink of an eye she vanished into thin air.
It was not the first time he had seen it, but a vanishing act in broad daylight still made him jump. He hesitated, then reached a finger toward the empty edge of the table. Halfway there, a soft hand caught it.
Careful, Your Highness. If you do that, Anna will be sad.
All right then. Her power was invisibility, not disappearance. Otherwise, she would be truly terrifying.
A knock sounded at the door.
Your Highness, it is Barov.
Come in.
The assistant minister came in carrying a great bundle of scrolls, and before his seat was even warm, he began to report the week's affairs. After more than a month of immersion, Roland found he could now follow the man's pace, instead of floundering in confusion as he had at first.
In short, Your Highness, Bordertown's finances have taken a turn for the better. Selling ore and uncut gems to Willowtown brought us nearly 200 gold royals. After buying food and paying wages, we still have 90 left over.
Barov was in fine spirits. With money in hand, getting through this winter would not be so hard.
I intend to select a group of townsfolk to fight the demonic beasts. Starting now, they must be gathered together and trained. My chief knight will serve as their instructor. I will explain the details to him myself. You will draw up a purchase plan. Every man gets sturdy leather armor and a spear, and 2 sets of winter clothing to change into.
Your Highness, this. By custom, do we not simply levy the people when battle comes?
An untrained mob thrown onto a battlefield is just a rabble. Do you think numbers alone will frighten the demonic beasts? When they rout, the chaos will be far worse.
Then, do you truly mean to hold Border Town to the very end?
If it truly cannot be held, of course we will withdraw. But I refuse to believe we cannot deal with a few mutated beasts.
If we do as you plan, that will be yet another considerable expense.
These are necessary expenses. Off you go. Get it done. His own vault still held more than 300 gold royals, mostly reserved for building the city wall. The materials and parts for the steam engines had come out of his own pocket too. The first one had cost nearly 20 royals, and he needed at least 3 more. It was true that the steam engine drove the first industrial revolution, but that did not mean a steam engine alone equaled an industrial revolution. England had developed to the point of desperately needing a new power to replace men and livestock in the mines. The moment Watt improved the engine, orders flooded in, and the new power spread to every industry in short order. Bordertown had no foundation for an industrial revolution. It barely had industry at all. So Roland did not expect to earn his first fortune selling engines. He would put them to work in the North Slope mine, hauling ore and crushing stone. When the mine's output rose, he would expand their use, driving industry forward from the top down.
Release That Witch. Episode 25. The Militia.
These are the men you recruited?
Roland gazed at the crowd of ragged civilians before him and felt the impulse to turn around and walk away.
Your Highness, they were screened exactly to your requirements. Male, no criminals, over 18 and under 40, no physical disabilities. I checked every one of them, carefully.
Fine. He should have known better than to expect much. In this world, productivity was so low that even eating one's fill was a struggle. Shabby clothes were perfectly normal. His princely comforts had blinded him to it. Step outside the castle, and you could see beggars in rags everywhere. Men who lived off begging. Even Grey Castle, the royal capital, had corpse collectors, whose job was to drag the starved dead from the streets and burn them, day after day. So, how did war work in this world? Roland closed his eyes and thought it over. Well, perhaps one notch above a street brawl. When a lord decided to make war, he summoned the nobles enfoffed beneath him. A duke called up his counts. The counts called their viscounts and barons. And so it went, down the line. Those nobles kept knights and mercenaries as their personal force, the true muscle of any fight, armored and well armed. They would also levy the commoners and farmers of their lands to support the host, which really meant hauling supplies and filling the front line whenever cannon fodder was needed. The heaviest losses always fell on that fodder. As for nobles, so long as they did not die on the field, they were usually captured, treated well, and ransomed.
Naturally, Roland had no intention of asking Bordertown's few nobles to fight for him. They had nothing to do with this place. Most were barons enfeoffed by the Lord of Longsong Stronghold, and their lands lay within the Stronghold's territory.
An army made entirely of commoners. In this era, that was a widely imaginative notion. They were dull and ignorant, could not read, could barely comprehend orders, and had never had professional training. How could they compare with knights who had drilled with the sword since the age of 10?
Your Highness, this was never going to work. Look at them. Which of them can even hold a sword steady? When the demonic beasts come, they will scatter at the first charge, and that will only unsettle the line. My advice is to hire professional mercenaries from Willowtown to guard the wall and keep these men for odd jobs.
No. I will use them. He had no fondness for mercenaries who fought only for coin. Besides, he was not building this army just to fight demonic beasts. Throughout history, every strong and enduring army had drawn its members from the people. Feudal armies, early modern armies, the rule had been proven times without number.
Very well, you have the final say. Then shall I start training them in swordplay tomorrow? Though I doubt it will do much good.
Swords? No. First you will take them through formation drills and running. Actually, summon that hunter we found the other day. Both of you will watch how I do it first.
It had occurred to Roland that his chief knight might never have experienced such training himself. That day, Vanna lived through more wonders than in all his 20 years before. He had actually seen the kingdom's fourth prince, Roland Wimbledon, up close. The prince had walked right past him and smiled at him.
Good heavens. Was the prince drunk? 3 days ago, when the fourth prince gave that speech in the square, Vanner had known this winter would be different. They would not march to Longsong's stronghold. They would spend the long, cold months right here. He had not understood most of the prince's reasoning, but this decision he agreed with from the bottom of his heart. His little brother had died in the stronghold slums 2 years ago. For a whole month, there had been no food at all. Vanner had spent the few coppers he earned unloading cargo at the docks on black bread to share with his brother. But that winter was too cold. The shanties leaked wind from every side, and that little bread could not even keep a body warm. His brother fell sick, sank into a stupor, and never woke again. Here in Border Town, he at least had a mud brick house, and no fear of snow falling for days on end. He had also seen the docks piled high with wheat brought in from elsewhere, carried into the castle in batches. So the moment he heard the fourth prince was recruiting a militia, he came running at once. What truly tempted him to drop his stone-breaking work and enlist immediately was the pay. 10 silver wolves a month. That matched a skilled mason's wage. He was not getting any younger. Come next spring, he meant to marry Cheryl, the tavern girl. A man had to put money by. As for what the notice said a militiaman actually did, he had paid it no mind at all. Carrying baggage for the noble lords, surely, or lending a hand to the patrols, they would not be sent up onto the wall to fight mad demonic beasts, right?
The screening had been strict. The knight in gleaming armor had a gaze that frightened Vanna. Fortunately, his sturdy frame passed the inspection. Many skin and bones fellows were hauled straight out of the line. In the end, barely 100 men remained.
But never in his wildest dreams had Vanner imagined that the one training them would be the prince himself.
Those who passed were led to the grassland west of Border Town. Behind them rose the city wall under construction. Before them stretched the unbroken sea of the misty forest. The prince ordered everyone to form up and stand, then went aside to rest. It had rained days before, and the ground was still wet mud. Water seeped through the seams of Vanna's shoes, making him miserable. Worse, the prince demanded a most peculiar stance, arms pressed straight down against the thighs, spine bolt upright.
A quarter of an hour in, Vanner was exhausted. This was harder than swinging a sledgehammer to break rocks, but he gritted his teeth and held on, because His Highness had said it himself. Anyone who moved would lose an egg from his lunch. Heavens! It had been so very long since he last tasted an egg.
The men around him clearly thought the same. Though they wobbled and swayed, most of them endured. When the prince finally announced a rest, Vanna realized his back was drenched in sweat, and the whole standing had lasted half an hour at most. Those who had failed to last beat their chests in regret, as if watching round, plump eggs rolling away from them forever.
Still, Vanner did not understand. What was this for? Did standing straight let a man carry more sacks of grain? If it were not his revered prince doing the training, he would have started shouting complaints long ago.
Yet, after a short rest, His Highness announced a second command, stranger than the first. They were to form up and stand again. This time, if not a single man moved, everyone would gain an extra egg at lunch. But if even one man gave up, all of them would lose that egg. Vanna heard a ripple of swallowing throats go through the ranks.
Damn it all. Was this some game fashionable among the kingdom's nobles? Dangling a carrot on a stick to make everyone dance like fools? He was no stupid donkey. But what if, just what if, everyone truly managed it? Then wouldn't there be 2 eggs at lunch? It was the devil's own temptation. Vanner wiped the drool from the corner of his mouth. For the eggs, he would give it everything he had.
Release That Witch. Episode 26. Lessons from History.
Your Highness, what exactly are you doing? Carter had once thought the fourth prince was merely headstrong. By now, that verdict had risen to sheer fantasy. When it came to training a warrior, the chief knight doubted anyone was more professional than himself. His family had a complete method. 5 years from the age of 10 produced a warrior versed in every weapon. 5 more made a knight schooled in the etiquette of the upper ranks, provided of course that the trainee was no commoner. And look at this pack of fools before him. Eyes for nothing but food. Besides, eggs were expensive. Blast it!
Just watch. And remember, the training in the coming days will follow this same pattern. There will be some changes in the details. I will list them all on paper for you. Train a passable force of warriors in 2 or 3 months in an age of cold steel? Roland had no such illusion, nor did he need Spartan warriors who could tear a beast apart with bare hands. An army's individual strength could be modest, but its discipline had to be iron. Orders given, orders obeyed. The strength of a group almost always exceeded that of the individual. That was decided by man's social nature. To achieve it quickly, borrowing the old military training playbook and adapting it to this world seemed a fine choice. From his own experience, a mere half month could melt students from every corner of the country into a single body. Whatever the process, the result spoke for itself. Once this lot truly understood what discipline was, Roland could move on to the next step of his plan.
Vanna, in the end, never got that second egg. This round of standing lasted more than twice as long as the first, ending only when someone's legs went soft and he swayed left and right, unable to bear it any longer. The prince happened to declare a general rest at that very moment and ordered the attendants to hand out lunch. This neatly shifted everyone's anger at the offender onto the food instead, though it did make Vanna suspect that His Highness had never meant to grant the second reward at all. Lunch came in 4 great earthen vats, hauled out of town on horse carts, together with a load of wooden bowls and spoons. Vanna licked his lips and was about to charge with the mob when the chief knight barred the way of them all. His Highness commanded everyone into 4 queues to come forward one by one for bowl and spoon. Anyone who disturbed the order would be served dead last. The crowd squeezed noisily into 4 lines. Vanna's luck was good. He stood near the front of the outermost file. Some were loudly displeased, and scuffling broke out in the ranks. The knight and a few guards waded in at once and hauled the brawlers out.
Idiots. Vanner glanced at the ringleader, the town's most notorious brawler, Madfist. A man who usually threw his weight around on brute strength, now squatting meekly to one side with a sword at his neck. Just look at the poor wretch. Vanner reckoned he had figured out His Highness's taste. Uniformity. Stand straight. Keep the line ruler straight. Queue even for food. Never break order. A well-traveled merchant from a big town once said that some nobles had a strange obsession. Everything had to be arranged just so, and if a single thing was out of place, they could not rest until it was put right. In Vanner's mind, such people were simply bored, senseless, inventing trouble to torment themselves. Who would have thought His Highness was one of them?
When the lids of the vats were lifted, a rich fragrance washed over the field. That drifting aroma nearly intoxicated Vanna. The crowd stirred restlessly, and from the front came the knight's bellow. Sure enough, the fourth prince required everyone to line up for food in the same order as before. Every throat swallowed, every belly growled, but with Madfist as their object lesson, the men queued honestly. The vats held steaming wheat porridge, and to Vanna's astonishment, there was dried meat in it. A thin slice in his bowl, but meat was meat, and after the porridge, he received his extra egg at last. Vanna devoured his lunch like a wolf, licking the bottom of the bowl clean. He did not even bite the egg, he swallowed it whole, and scalded a blister on his tongue for his haste.
Setting down the bowl, Vanner patted his belly and burped. It had been so very long since he had enjoyed food this good. More unbelievable still, he actually felt full. Meat porridge and black bread were as far apart as heaven and earth. If he could eat like this every day, what would it matter to face the demonic beasts at the front?
After the meal came a long rest. Then everyone was marched back inside the wall, on foot, to the camp where the town patrols were quartered. A burly man of foreign looks stepped out from the ranks and began teaching them how to pitch tents.
Vanner knew him. Few who lived on Old Street did not. Iron Axe, whose brilliant archery left the town's most seasoned hunters speechless. Wait, Iron Axe worked for the fourth prince now? Now that he thought of it, the man had been shadowing the chief knight these past days. Vanner's brow furrowed. What was His Highness thinking? The man was a sandman.
Do you truly mean to make a Sandman a captain? He does not belong to Grey Castle. He does not even belong to the kingdoms of the mainland.
Witches do not belong to Grey Castle either. But they all belong to Bordertown. Besides, you will be there watching, won't you?
But, Your Highness,
Do not worry. Bordertown does not care about a man's origins. So long as he has broken no law of the kingdom, he is still one of my people. If it truly bothers you, pick 2 more outstanding men as captains. This force will only grow from here. Nurturing a few with promise now is no bad thing. Ah, right. I have finished writing the training regulations. Honestly, I would worry more about these than about the Sandman.
Carter took the parchment scroll from Roland's hand and skimmed it from top to bottom. His eyes went wide. The contents were unheard of. For instance, every afternoon, the whole company would run circuits around Bordertown from 2 o'clock until sunset. Every man had to finish. Mutual help was permitted along the way. And if no one gave up, dinner would gain an egg. Or, the moment the wolf hour passed at night, an assembly whistle would sound, and everyone must dress and form up as fast as humanly possible. A few days of such torment, and would the whole company not fall apart? If the earlier items were just barely comprehensible, the final one left Carter utterly lost. Quote, "After dinner each day, the entire company will attend cultural instruction at Mr. Carl's academy."
Your Highness, what is cultural instruction? Do not tell me you mean to teach them to read and write.
I wish. But time is short. At most they can learn some simple words and numbers, enough to read and write orders. I will explain that part to Carl myself. You only need to march them there.
But why would you do this? None of it helps them fight demonic beasts.
Says who? An army that fights well is always an educated army. That is a lesson summed up from history.
Release That Witch. Episode 27. The Past. The weather grew colder by the day, and Roland rose later by the day. As a member of the ruling class, he certainly had the right to lie in, especially in that great bed piled with 3 layers of swansdown, where a man sank into softness the moment he lay down. When Roland finished washing and walked into his office, Nightingale was already there waiting for him.
Here. Your breakfast. I ate half of it while it was hot, so what's left is cold now.
She jerked her chin at the half-empty plate of bread on the table, looking for all the world like the true master of this place.
Did no one ever teach you to keep humble before a prince? I seem to recall you were quite well-mannered at the start. He sighed inwardly. Who would have thought this woman was such a familiar sort? When she was not at Anna's side, she came wandering over here. She used to hide her presence. Now, so long as no outsider was about, she strolled openly around his office, not even bothering with her hood.
Like this. Your Highness, you've been rising later and later. The breakfast was just sitting there, so I helped you take care of some of it. Besides, you don't actually mind, do you? You don't like all that tedious ceremony. I can tell.
She hopped down from the table, swept a flawless noble's curtsy, then sidled up close to Roland.
Did this woman have a third eye? How could she tell even that? Suit yourself. But in the future, if you start the breakfast, finish it. If I want to eat, I'll order another portion.
As you command, Your Highness.
With a soft laugh, she picked up the plate and skipped off to a corner. Roland spread out a blank sheet of parchment, meaning to finish the half-drawn design he had left the day before.
To hold Bordertown, the battles after Winter's arrival must not be bitter, costly victories. An army that had never seen blood was no true army, granted. But Roland worried that if the losses ran too high, these quickly trained men would never find the courage to stand on the wall again. He needed a weapon from beyond this era, one that would give him absolute superiority over the demonic beasts. Without question, that meant firearms. In fact, this age already had every condition for the gun to appear. Alchemists commonly mixed a substance called snow powder used for ceremonial salutes at court celebrations. It was nothing but wrongly proportioned gunpowder. It burned too slowly, and sealed in a copper tube, it mostly went bang and little more. Perhaps in another 100 years, the first handguns would appear. Those clumsy things took two men working together to load and fire, served as single-shot weapons at best, and in rate of fire and power alike, they could not match a well-trained archer. Roland had no interest in reenacting history. As with the steam engine, he could use the witch's abilities to build a firearm of real combat value.
While you were out, I had a look at the orders on your desk. Why are you buying so much ice mint? It's winter, you know. If you want chilled ale, just leave it outside overnight.
She swallowed the last piece of bread and asked the question with perfect casualness. Ice mint? That was saltpeter. The upper nobility loved to use it in summer to make ice, chilling milk, wine, or juice. Thanks to the season, it was wonderfully cheap to buy up right now.
For making ice cheese. The air is not cold enough yet. It needs to freeze solid. A lie, of course. This woman was no enemy, but he did not know her the way he knew Anna. Unlike the steam engine, the firearm had no real technical barrier. Once it spread, it would plainly harm his plans. Until he had her measure, some things were better kept hidden. Tell me, besides searching for the Holy Mountain, does your Witch Cooperation Association also train assassins?
No. They are just a group of poor souls gathered together for a dream. I only joined the association in the last 2 years.
Which means that before that, you served someone else? That beautiful throwing technique of yours takes a teacher and years of hard practice. Of that much I am certain. So, besides me, is there really someone else willing to take in a witch?
Take in? How could that be? Had he known I would become a witch, he would never have let me through his gates. And afterward, had I not still been of use to him, I would likely have been quietly executed long ago.
Something strange crossed her face as she said it.
Oh? Care to tell me about it?
Your Highness, when the time is right, I will tell you. I know what you are worried about. Rest easy. I won my freedom 5 years ago. I no longer sell my life for anyone.
She smiled and shook her head, but this time there was something unreadable in the smile.
Negotiation check failed. Clearly his charm stat was not high enough. Still, her answer confirmed his guess from the side. At least until 5 years ago, she had done unseen, dirty work for someone. Fortunately, that person's use of Nightingale seemed to have sprung from a chance accident, not from a plan like his own, to recruit witches on a grand scale.
Roland asked no more, and bent back over his drawing. To his slight surprise, Nightingale, who so loved to crowd close, grew quiet. For a while, the only sound in the room was the crackling of the fire. When Roland looked up to stretch his stiff neck, the office was already empty.
She could at least say goodbye before leaving.
He muttered the complaint under his breath, folded the parchment, and tucked it into the pocket against his chest. After several days of work with this last sheet, the design of the weapon, or rather, the replication, was complete.
What he meant to build was the famous flintlock musket, a weapon proven by long history no harder to make than a matchlock. Priming powder at the back, lead ball down the muzzle, a rate of fire near 3 rounds a minute. More than enough for mindless mutated beasts. Most animals cannot climb walls, so the shooting distance would be roughly the height of the wall itself, about 12 feet. At that range, you could not miss if you aimed with your foot, and the bullet would lose almost none of its speed. So long as the beast had not evolved hides harder than steel, one shot would mean one kill. The flintlock's weakness lay in production time. Like the matchlock before it, it began with craftsmen hammering out every piece by hand. From barrel to trigger, a whole musket took about 3 months. The barrel was the great bulk of it, hammering an iron plate into a round tube, sealing the seam, boring, and cutting the bore. No precision instruments were required, but the smith had to be a master to produce a passable barrel. That, precisely, was why Roland had to build a steam engine first. With a steam engine, he could drive steel drill bits to bore barrels straight out of solid iron rods. The speed would rise enormously, and no seasoned craftsman would be needed. A workbench that held the rod steady would be enough.
Release that witch. Episode 28. Scarface. But when Roland set to work himself, he found that reality was far less simple than he had imagined.
4 or 5 days of busy work in the backyard did yield drill bits of decent hardness. With Anna's searing flame, he could easily produce molten iron above 1500 degrees. Freed from the limits of temperature, the old puddling method could turn out small batches of steel with ease, stirring the molten iron with rods, so the excess carbon and impurities met the air and burned away. Repeat that a few times, and the cooling iron gave him fine steel. The problem was the prototype steam engine. In operation, its noise and vibration were appalling, and the drill bit could not hold steady along the full length of an iron tube. For rough, heavy work, such tremors meant nothing. For boring gun barrels, they were fatal. To fix that, he would first need a centrifugal governor to regulate the engine's output, then gear trains to damp the shaking and adjust the drill speed, and cutting gears required a simple lathe. Adding it all up, Roland realized there was no way to finish before the months of demons arrived.
In the end, he could only fall back on the old way. Barrels hammered out by blacksmiths' hands, his plan for mass-producing muskets was dead. Given the number of smithies in Bordertown, they could turn out 3 or 4 barrels a month at most, and that was with work on the second steam engine halted.
The only good news was that he need not worry about flawed barrels. The smiths only had to hammer out the rough tube. Anna would then fuse every seam with her flame, giving a result close to a seamless bored barrel. The risk of a barrel bursting was all but gone. Helpless, Roland revised his earlier plan. He had meant to recruit the town's hunters and build a musket company. They were mostly fine archers, at home with bow and crossbow alike, and musket training took little time. They could have become battle-ready very quickly. But with 4 flintlocks at most by the months of demons, he could only pick the very best among the hunters and forge an elite squad. That task he decided to leave to Iron Axe, who had lived in Bordertown for 15 years and was, by common consent, its finest hunter.
Brian had not been happy these past 2 weeks. Especially when he ran into the militia on the streets, the unhappiness doubled, and at the bottom of his heart, there was even a trace of bitterness.
He felt the prince had forgotten him. A month ago, when the chief knight had called him over, he had been beside himself with excitement. To stand close before the 4th prince, to answer his highness's questions in person, what fortune, what an honor that had been. He had grown up in Bordertown, the son of an ordinary hunter's family, and had risen to patrol captain on his own ability. He knew he could never become a knight by his family name. He could only wait for a chance to earn it with deeds, and be dubbed by one of the great ones. The prince's questions had seemed like that very chance. Roland plainly would not abandon his domain. He was searching for a way to fight the demonic beasts. The wall rising everywhere since then had proved it. Beyond doubt, this year they would spend the months of demons in Bordertown. To hold the beasts back here, they needed a force that dared fight head-on. Brian had thought himself the obvious choice. Skilled in scouting, in swordsmanship, in riding, and not lacking in courage. Every year he stayed to the very end to light the beacon fire. But he had never imagined that His Highness would raise an army from among the common folk. A purely commoner force. And not just him, not one of the patrol's 10 men had passed the Chief Knight's review. It was beyond belief. Did His Highness truly think men who had never held a sword would fight better than himself? At the first sight of a demonic beast's ferocity, they would crumble.
But the prince seemed to be in earnest. He was not only training this rabble, he had issued them all matching uniforms. Every afternoon, Brian saw them run through the streets in 2 columns, clad in brown and grey leather armor. The files had been ragged at first. Lately, they ran more and more in step.
While he still walked his dull, dry rounds each day, with no hope of promotion in sight.
That night, tossing and turning, unable to sleep, he heard a stir from the next room. Then the door was pushed open, and someone slipped quietly in.
Hey, everyone up.
Brian knew that voice. A member of the patrol, the one they called Scarface. 5 men slept in that room. Besides Brian and Grey Dog, the other 3 rolled quickly to their feet, as if long prepared, still dressed in their outer clothes.
Captain, get up. I have something important to tell you.
Scarface had a noble relative in Longsong's stronghold, a great noble, by all accounts, and so his standing in the patrol ran high. Brian could not simply ignore him.
What is it?
It's so late. Aren't you going to sleep?
I have a fine job to offer you all. Tell me, do you want to be dubbed knights?
What? KN Knights?
What job, exactly?
You all know my uncle, Sir Hilta, a count and theft by the Duke himself and the Duke's most trusted man. This news came from his own lips. The 4th Prince means to cast off Longsong's stronghold and go it alone, and the Duke is most displeased. He has decided to show the Prince, who truly rules the Western region.
You can't mean us. Assassin.
Of course not. Whatever else he is still a prince. If he died, even the Duke could not shield us. I told you, this is a fine job.
Brian's instinct told him this deal could not be as simple as the man claimed, but the lure of knighthood was too great. Go on, let us hear it.
Grain. Without grain, he can only crawl meekly back to Longsong's stronghold. This job is promised by the Duke himself. If we succeed in burning the grain the 4th Prince bought, he will hold a dubbing ceremony for us and grant each of us a fief east of the stronghold, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. So, Captain, what do you think?
You're mad. His Highness said it himself. This year's months of demons could last 4 months or more. If you burn the grain, what will everyone eat? Have you all forgotten what happened 2 years ago?
What's that to us? I never planned to stay in this dump anyway. Do Duke Ryan's job, and we live easy in the stronghold from now on.
That's right. Do you really want to eat mine slack in this godforsaken place for the rest of your lives?
Damn it. They had settled this long ago. Brian's heart went cold. Apart from himself and Grey Dog, who had grown up here, the rest came from every corner of the kingdom and felt no attachment to this town at all. Seeing he had no strength to stop them, he could only change the subject. But the wheat has all been moved into the prince's castle, and his highness's own guards stand watch at the gates. How do you mean to get in?
And that is exactly why I need you. You have lived in this wretched place since you were small. No one knows it better than you. I remember you once said there is an abandoned well in the back gully, joined to the water channels beneath the castle. Through it, a man can slip straight into the castle garden without a sound. You crawled in there as a boy, didn't you? So, do this one job with me, and you too will be a knight. A knight dubbed by the Duke himself.
No. A knight should have the courage to fight injustice, to defy the mighty, and protect the weak. For one Duke's private grudge, they would leave the whole town to hunger and death? What honor could such a knighthood possibly hold? It would be nothing but an empty shell.
He had just opened his mouth to refuse when Grey Dog cried out first.
Batman, all of you, you dare lay hands on the grain. I won't let you leave this room. I'll report.
His voice froze mid-sentence. He turned back in disbelief. A former comrade stood behind him, sneering. A black dagger had gone in behind Grey Dog's waist, the blade buried to the hilt. He trembled twice, opened his mouth to speak, but only a rasping gasp came out. The man twisted the dagger twice, then wrenched it out. Grey Dog crumpled like a puppet with its strings cut, soft and boneless, to the floor.
Well, I take it you have made your decision, Captain.
Scarface leaned in close, so close that Brian could feel the stench of his breath. Release That Witch. Episode 29. Fury. The Lord's Castle of Bordertown had not always stood where it stands today. When the foundations of its stone walls were first laid, the work struck an underground cavern, and the ground suddenly caved in. The site had to be moved. The water channels already dug were mostly wrecked in the collapse, and those that survived were abandoned when the castle was rebuilt elsewhere. As a boy, Brian had often wormed his way through those tunnels. One day, he had chanced on a route that led from an abandoned well all the way to the well of the castle garden. He had proudly told his father, and for his pains was strung up and given a beating he never forgot. Trespassing in the Lord's castle was a capital crime, his father warned him. If anyone found out, the gallows would be the only end to it. Thoroughly frightened, Brian never walked that channel again. But when the men gathered to drink and talk, he had boasted more than once of his power to reach the castle directly. Now he regretted it beyond words. The party numbered 9, not counting Grey Dog. The whole patrol, in other words, had been talked around by Scarface to work for Duke Ryan, master of the kingdom's western region, with so rich a reward. There were few who could have withstood such temptation. The abandoned well lay on the wasteland of that first collapse. With Scarface's sword at his back, Brian went down the shaft in the middle of the file. The channel that had seemed so roomy in his childhood was narrow now. Long years without passage, and the diverted flow had left vines growing in many places. The man who had stabbed Grey Dog went first, bent double, torch in one hand and a short-handled axe in the other, hacking away the obstacles.
Brian made a show of searching his memory for the route while his mind hunted for a way out. In a place where movement was so cramped, escape was impossible. Only once they reached the castle would he have a sliver of a chance. And then, what? Shout twice and bring the prince's guards running? No. Scarface would finish him with one flick of the wrist. He had to open some distance first, otherwise he would end up just like Grey Dog. At the thought of Grey Dog, his eyes dimmed once more. Before Border Town was even built, Grey Dog and he had lived here. The two of them had practically grown up together, and joining the patrol had been Brian's idea in the first place. He had never expected that his friend would be chosen as a patrol captain too, just like himself. For a long while, Brian had been glad for him. Because of his stutter, Grey Dog had always been looked down upon. At last, he had gained some recognition. At least, that was what Brian had believed at the time.
But when Grey Dog fell, and Brian roared at Scarface in rage, the man had told him, his face full of mockery, the real reason the others had pushed the two of them forward as captains.
You fool. A patrol captain has to stay behind through the months of demons and light the beacon. If we didn't push it onto you, did you expect us to take that risk ourselves?
Those words had stabbed into Brian's heart like a blade. So the deference, the congratulations, all of it had been false show. The true reason was this ugly. He had let shock and despair play across his face to mask the fury surging out within. Utterly unforgivable, he had sworn, teeth clenched, someone would pay for this.
After half an hour's crawl through the dried-out channel, the men at last heard the sound of running water. That meant their goal was near. Rounding a bend, the passage opened out, wide enough for 2 men to stand abreast.
No way through ahead. It's a shaft. A vertical well.
What?
Tell him to look up. We are here.
The abandoned channel happened to join the castle's backyard, well, midway up its shaft. When the well was last repaired, some oversight had left this junction unsealed. Scarface pressed himself to the shaft wall and peered. 3 feet below rushed the flowing water. Above his head showed a small circle of night sky. He set men to watch Brian, drew a rope from his pack, tied on a hook, and tossed it gently upward. With a clang, the hook caught fast on the rim of the well. Scarface climbed the rope, careful and slow, and slipped out. Soon, the rope twitched from above, the signal for the rest to follow. It took the party no small effort to haul themselves out of the well. The castle they had only ever glimpsed from afar now towered before their eyes.
Quick, take us to the storehouse.
Brian had been inside only once. Though his memory of the castle had blurred, he showed no sign of it, and led them calmly to the wooden door nearest the well. They pried the lock and slipped inside. By now, most of the castle was asleep. The oil lamps along the corridor walls had all gone out. In the pitch darkness, someone struck a flame. Its weak light reached only a few feet around. The chance Brian had been waiting for had come. When the party reached a fork where steps led down to the cellar, he fixed on that descending stair and hurled himself forward. The man guarding him had been watching his every move, but the leap was too sudden. Before he could react, with a muffled grunt, he was knocked off his feet, and the two of them tumbled down together. At the bottom of the stairs, they were instantly beyond the reach of the light, swallowed by the dark.
Damn it all to Hill.
Scarface drew his short sword at once and leaped after them. He had expected Brian to play hide-and-seek with him in the dark. He had not expected that the man had not fled at all, but stood quietly at the foot of the stairs, as if waiting for him. The comrade Brian had dragged down lay motionless on the floor, and in Brian's hand was that man's weapon.
Fool, do you really think you can win? There are still 7 of us, and only 1 of you.
Scarface held his guard stance, waiting until the rest had come down before he barked the words.
Brian did not answer. There was no need to hold back his fury any longer.
His sword swept down in a slanting cut, swift as lightning, crashing onto Scarface's blade so hard that sparks burst out. Before the man could set himself for the next exchange, a straight thrust drove the point deep into his shoulder. Scarface howled in pain and staggered back. Another man stepped forward and blocked Brian's pursuit. This was a perfect place to meet them. The narrow passage robbed the enemy of their numbers. So long as he stood square in the middle, facing them head-on, they could do nothing. There was no room for 2 to swing weapons side by side.
In swordsmanship, Brian feared no man in the patrol. While this scum had idled, gambled, and drowned themselves in the taverns, he had honed his fighting skill through wind and frost, rain and snow, unbroken for years. That, too, was why he had not simply shouted for help the moment he could. He meant to avenge Grey Dog with his own 2 hands.
Release that witch. Episode 30. Out of the Mist. The man who stepped up to replace his fallen comrade caught barely 2 of Brian's strokes before his weapon went flying.
These men were not patrolmen at all. They were thugs. What had they ever done besides extortion and bullying? He and Grey Dog had carried out the Lord's duties to the letter, and somehow they had become the odd ones out. But it was this trash, these vermin, who would sell out their own town to curry favor with the Stronghold, who had murdered Grey Dog by the basest means, unforgivable.
He swung his sword straight at his terrified opponent's neck. Just then, a dark blur stabbed out from behind his target, closing on Brian's heart in the blink of an eye. The strike was too well hidden. By the time he sensed it, there was no time to parry. In desperation, he kicked off the ground and flung himself backward. A sting lanced through his chest. Rolling twice and coming up, Brian dropped back into a guard stance. The sneak thrust had only cut through his coat and skin. No great harm. The real question was the man who had made it. He recalled no one in the patrol with such swordsmanship.
You actually dodged it.
The man shoved aside his disarmed teammate and came forward, step by step. By the firelight, Brian realized he did not know this face at all. Short in stature, but with grotesquely long arms that would nearly brush his knees. A stranger's face. Brian could have sworn he had never seen it before.
You are not one of the patrol. Who are you? He dealt little with the 5 from next door, but he knew their faces. This man had clearly taken one of their places and slipped into the castle with the rest. That Brian himself had missed it on the midnight march was no surprise, but Scarface's lot could not have. And since they showed no surprise at all, there was only one explanation. Scarface had planted him.
You have already guessed the answer, so why ask? Either way, you were about to die.
Damn it, he cut me. Viper, hack off his arms and legs. I want to bleed him slow.
My regrets, Mr. Hills. I must give priority to the task my lord the Count assigned me.
Before the words were out, the man called Viper was on him. His angles were vicious and uncanny, and with that freakish reach, Brian was forced into a desperate defense, driven back step after step, never finding the chance to counter.
Careless. Anxiety rose in his heart. They had been fighting in this underground passage long enough. Surely someone above had noticed by now? He had meant to avenge Grey Dog with his own hands. Now he could only hope to last a little longer, until His Highness's personal knights came to surround these villains.
You seem to be waiting for something. Let me guess. Hoping the prince's men will save you? Sadly for you, a stone castle is not like the taverns and inns, you know. In those wooden frames, the whole floor creaks when someone has a bit of fun. Here, once the door is shut, you can scream your throat raw, and no one above will hear a thing.
Brian faltered, his thoughts read aloud. And that was exactly the opening Viper had waited for. Holding his sword low to lull his opponent, the man raised his other hand, ever so slightly, and triggered the crossbow hidden in his sleeve. A bolt no longer than a finger flew from the cuff. Brian heard only the soft hum of the string, and it had already buried itself in his lung. Unbearable pain exploded in his chest. Brian hurled his longsword at the lunging Viper, turned, and ran. But blood welling from his lung quickly flooded his windpipe. He could hardly breathe. Before he had gone far, his foot caught on a threshold, and he crashed heavily to the ground. Viper strode after him to finish it, but Scarface blocked his way.
He's mine. I will teach this bastard what it means to stab me.
Make it quick. And do not forget our real task.
Scarface hauled Brian up by the hair and snarled into his face.
Believe me, you will die in agony.
Brian wanted nothing more than to spit a mouthful of blood into that face, but his strength was draining away like water. He knew he had not long to live. Old regrets surged up within him. The wife he would never meet, the knighthood he would never win, but the greatest regret of all. He had failed to avenge Grey Dog. Wait, what was that?
He blinked. On a crate ahead of him sat a woman. In the murky light, he could not make out her features, but the graceful curves beneath the robe left no doubt that she was a woman.
Damn it. Was this a hallucination? When he had tumbled into this room, there had been no one inside. Had the gods above heard his complaints and conjured a vision to comfort him?
Really now, fighting so merrily on someone else's turf, and meaning to kill a man right in front of my eyes? That hardly seems proper.
Brian felt Scarface's hand jolt and tear free of his hair. All around came the hiss of weapons leaving their sheaths, and several sharp cries rang out together.
Who are you?
Their reaction was far too... Wait. His thoughts were growing hazy. Then the woman he was seeing was no hallucination?
Me? I belong here. And what are you? Rats that slipped in through the sewer?
The woman hopped down from the barrel, bent, and patted the dust from her robe. In the dim firelight, Brian saw a strange emblem embroidered upon it. 3 triangles side by side, and a great eye set at their center, its outline glinting gold in the firelight. Her voice was crisp and lovely, yet utterly without feeling. This was not natural. No one who stumbled upon a murder scene should be this calm. Viper realized it too. His expression darkened. Slowly he circled to her flank, then thrust, sudden and straight. The woman did not even turn her head. She waved a hand, careless as brushing away a fly. Viper never saw her weapon. He felt only a gust of cold wind pass through his body. A scream! Scarface stared, not believing his eyes. Viper had charged in and leapt back out, and the place where his sword arm had been was empty. His arm, sword, and all lay on the floor. Terror seized Scarface by the throat. Others might not know, but he knew Viper's measure well. Ruthless, cunning, deadly. That was the Count's own judgment of the man. Anyone the Count saw fit to recruit was no weakling. Even Brian could not have lasted half a quarter hour against him. And now a woman had lopped off his whole arm with a single, indifferent blow.
What are you all standing there for? Kill her! Kill her!
Bleeding too freely, Brian's vision began to blur. He heard chaotic footsteps all around him, the clash of weapons, and the dull thuds of bodies hitting the floor. What was happening? He forced his eyes to turn and looked ahead, and the patrol captain saw a sight beyond his understanding. The woman's figure moved like a ghost, strolling through the ring of her enemies, now seen, now gone. Every strike pierced a vital point. It was less a slaughter than a dance. He had never seen anyone wield a killing weapon with such rhythm, her blade flashing high and low, tracing impossible arcs. Beside her, the men were nothing but clumsy clowns. They struck back in vain, and in vain they fell, until at last she stood alone and proud among them. That was the last thing Brian saw before consciousness left him.